Hey everyone, it's Jeannie, and today I'm sharing a card using a bunch of stamp sets and dies to combine everything together for a pop up bed box card. From Trinity Stamp Sleepy Hollow stamp set, I'm using the pillows, Lawn Fawn's scalloped heart borders, Lawn Fawn's Screen Time, and North Pole from Hero Arts. I did show an additional die set in there, but I didn't end up using it. For the stamp images, I went ahead and stamped it using Ink on Three's Blackout ink. It's a ink that's Copic friendly, dries super fast, and is super black. So I went ahead and stamped these all out and fussy cut them. I figured that, you really didn't need to see me stamping them, and I just jump right in. For these images, most of them are from Lawn Fawn's Screen Time because I wanted to use the little couple. They're going to be sitting on a bed playing video games, and she's going to be on the phone texting. And the pillows are from Trinity Stamp's Sleepy Hollow because to make a bed set look complete, it does definitely need pillows, and the Lawn Fawn set didn't have them. The idea is that she'll be texting him a happy birthday, and they're going to be just hanging out in this pop up bed set. So, for all the colors that I'm using, I'll have them listed down below, along with all the other details of the things that I use to make this card. It'll be either in my description box or on my blog. And so, if you're curious about the coloring combinations or how I put everything together, it will be there, as well as the dimensions for the pop-up box. I do speed this up a bit because I've made plenty of pop-up boxes before, and the dimensions always change. So the reason why I don't usually use a pop-up box die is because I like to play with the dimensions. In particular for this bed, I needed it wide enough to show the boy and the girl with the TV in between and not covering their faces. And the ability to mess with the dimensions really work in my favor to create different types of pop-up boxes. I've done ones where there's an underwater scene. There's other ones that I create just depending on the scene I want to set. So excuse the lighting. I did have to turn on the lights because it was getting a little dark. I I'm just coloring everything. Everything's super teeny tiny. I later on realized that I stamped out two game controllers and I actually needed her to be holding a phone because the Lawn Fawn stamp set actually has text bubbles that I wanted to use for the card. So I later on you'll see me stamp out the cell phone and insert it into her hand. The reason why I didn't stamp directly on the little boy and the little girl, I didn't want to deal with masking. I thought it would just be easier to do it this way if I changed my mind, which I ended up doing because I realized I needed the phone instead of the game controller. I could, thankfully, because if I didn't, I would have had to restamp her with the phone instead of a game controller. So once I have everything colored, I'll move on to the pop-up box, and the dimensions for the pop-up box will be listed down below. I will say that for this box, I do have the exact measurements that I'm using, but I do go rogue with a portion of it because I wanted the bed frame to be curved on top and in the front. I went a little rogue doing that. I didn't end up using the dye that I wanted to. The My Favorite Thing Snowdrift kind of has a curve, but it just needed to be too perfect, and it was going to be a little off just because it's not meant to be a curve. And I think I have something in my stash, but that was the first dye that came into mind, and I decided just to freehand it. So for the front of the bed, I'm scoring this at 2 3/4 by 7.5. I'm scoring it at half an inch, inch and a half, 6 inches, and then 7. So I have the side of the bed and also the tabs to add the glue. For the bed base, I'm doing it at 4.5 by 4 inches, and it is perfect for A2 envelope. It will fit in with some space. even with the little bed poles that I'll be using. For the pattern paper, I went with this blue and white striped pattern paper, and this will be the blankets. I do use Lawn Fawn scallop border just to give it a little bit of interest and make it a little cutesy. And this is going to be the blankets that are going to be on the bed. One of them is going to be the insert in between the box, and one of them is going to be directly adhered to the bed back. And that will give the look of this is the blankets, and they are in this gray bed frame. And as you can see, this is wide enough for me to fit the two kids and the TV in between. For the Hero Arts set, it's a North Pole set, which is Christmas, but I just wanted to use the pole die for it, and I thought it was perfect for the bed frame poles that just gives the bed a little bit of dimension. So here's where I go a little rogue. I am just penciling out the curve because I didn't want to use the die, and I basically freehand it. I have a tendency to kind of freehand a lot of scene cards and things like that, and this is no different. I'm just going in with a pencil first, and I'll erase every mark after I finish cutting it out. My bed post in the front is a little bit bigger than I would normally use, but it worked out perfectly because, I would trim it down. And looking at this now, I think that I actually had done it at 1 3/4 instead of 2 3/4. So I'll list all the dimensions down below so you have the correct ones. But this is up to you on how high you want it, and how much stuff you're going to be adding at the top of the card. For me, I needed enough space for the text message, so I did it a little bit lower than I normally would. And pop-up boxes usually are a little bit higher up in the full box, but here it's kind of more like a shadow box, I guess, than a pop-up box, but it works because it does pop up. Once I have everything ready, I go ahead and assemble the poles onto the bed. And I really think that that just little detail really makes this look like a bed. And I know personally I don't have a bed frame, but a lot of people do, and I think that it makes it really look cute. And so I opted to add that little detail here. And with cards, you kind of can go rogue. You can do whatever detail you have, whatever you have in your stash. This is the reason why I wanted to use my crafty stash versus using a cut file to cut this all out. I originally had seen this idea on Facebook using a cut file, but I decided that not everyone has this kind of cutting machine, and we probably have a ton of items in our crafty stash that we can use to create a similar card that you see online. And this is what I did here. With the poles, I just added it to the front and the back of the bed, and it's really coming together. And once I add the insert for the blanket, I will find the perfect position. I want it a little bit high so you can see the blankets, and also when I'm placing the images, you want to be able to see them and you don't want them too low. So I placed the little blanket piece a little bit higher than the front of the bed just so everything can pop up. I'm pretty careful when I assemble this because I want to make sure that it folds properly. Because I'm scoring this myself, sometimes the lines aren't exactly perfect, so I make sure that I can fold down without messing with the insert inside. So I'll test it out once or twice just to make sure it's folding down properly. So for the bed back, I am adhering it directly to the back of the bed, and it'll be a little bit higher than the bed front and the blanket that's in between. I just want to be able to place the pillows, and you can cover it up with the pillows, but you just want it to be there. And although it doesn't cover the entire bed back, it's fine because the front of the bed will cover that bottom portion anyway, and you won't see it. So I adhere it directly, and I'll trim off the extra. I do make sure that everything will fit properly, and I do test it out a bunch of times before I go ahead and adhere everything, just because I want to make absolutely sure that everything will fit and look nice before I commit and add adhesive everywhere. So I finally decide that I'm ready to adhere it to the bed back, and of course, I'm being very careful to do so. And I think it's all coming together. Here is where I realize that while the boy has the game controller, the girl doesn't have the phone that I want. And so I go ahead and stamp that little phone out. And yes, I am stamping with my finger with the stamp because it is so teeny tiny that it worked out. Sometimes I'm just super lazy, and so I just go with what I have, and my finger is the easiest thing. So I stamp and color that little phone. I actually cut around her hand so I can insert that phone in there, and I just adhere it with glue. Most of the time, I do use a double sided adhesive tape because it works really well. And a lot of the times, double sided adhesive tape is easier to kind of remove from any cardstock that you have stuck to it versus glue. Glue kind of like is permanent and I can't really mess with it if there is a mistake. For the sentiment, I want the little girl texting. So I'm stamping out two of the text bubbles from the screen time stamp set, and I'm also stamping out an additional sentiment on the pattern paper. And you see me masking it off because I just want it to say you leveled up. The text message says, I believe, a little text to say, and then another text message bubble which says happy birthday. And because the you leveled up sentiment is small, I decided to mat it. When I mat a sentiment, it makes it look a little bit larger, and because this is going on the front part of the bed, it needs that look of being a little bit bigger because there's not much on there. I thought about decorating it, but there was so much going on with the little girl and the little boy and the popcorn and the snacks and the TV. I just didn't want to add too much. I didn't want to make it extra busy. So I go ahead and add that sentiment to the front, and I'll add the little text bubbles right above the bed so it looks like her texts are showing up right behind her and you see exactly what she's texting. So to finish off the card, I'm adding the little pillows. Four might seem excessive, but for me, I personally have four for myself, and I just can't get enough pillows. So this is plenty of pillows just to decorate that back. And because I don't have the bed front too high, I'm able to stick them right below the text messages, and it works out really nicely. For the video game console, I realized that because I fussy cut it, there's no space to adhere it to the bed. So to fix this, I just adhere a little strip of extra cardstock, and this allows me to add adhesive to right below the video game console and attach it directly to the bed. So that way, none of the image is covered up and it looks like it's just sitting on top of the bed. It worked out really, really well. I'm just adding the little snacks, which is the popcorn and the chips, and my card is done. So I hope you enjoy it. I think it turned out really cute. This fits perfectly into an A2 envelope and is a cute birthday card. For all the dimensions and the details, please look down below the description box or hop over to my blog. And I hope you have a nice day. Bye.